Canadians have not only taken up the tradition of shopping on Black Friday, but they're beating Americans at their own game. That's according to merchant data from global e-commerce provider Shopify, which saw Canadians spend more per person than U.S. consumers in all 24 hours of that sales day. Let's talk about that and expectations for Cyber Monday with Shopify's HARLEY FINKELSTEIN, who joins us now from Ottawa. HARLEY, give us a sense. Canadians, we knew they like to spend, but in a big way, what was the data telling you?
The data is telling us that Canadians are catching up to our American neighbors very quickly when it comes to online retail. You know, we've sort of talked about for a long time the fact that as a percentage of total retail, online retail in Canada is smaller than the U.S. But what we're seeing right now, and actually in hyper real time, I just checked before joining the show, we're now seeing about 6,000 transactions every minute on Shopify and about $600,000 of sales every minute on Shopify right now. So not all of that, of course, is just Canadian consumers, but the Canadians are shopping. And more importantly, they're buying from independent direct-to-consumer brands. We're seeing a major shift in 2019 away from department stores towards people that actually make the products. And I think 2019 will go down as the direct-to-consumer holiday shopping season unequivocally. Well,
that's certainly a storyline that feeds directly into the business that is Shopify. Just to get a sense for the kinds of things that people are buying, like I was looking at some of the data you guys have been compiling. I saw things like accessories, but also makeup. Just give us a sense on the kinds of things people are feel they can easily buy on their phones or their tablets right now.
Yeah. So for the first time ever, we've created what's called the Shopify Shopping Index, which is effectively a list of the trending shops across 1 million stores on Shopify all over the world. What's interesting is that the categories of products are not that different. You still see accessories, and you see cosmetics, and you see kitchen appliances. But what's different this year than in previous years is that the actual products being bought in each of those categories are actually being bought directly from the manufacturer, directly from the brand. So whether it's Drunk Elephant, which makes cosmetics, or ColourPop as well, or the Teddy Fresh, which is a hoodie that's doing incredibly well on Shopify, or the Nugget, which is kids furniture, Furbo, which is a pet, a camera for your dog or cat, where you can communicate with your pet while you're away for the day and actually give them treats. These are all traditional categories. However, the products that are purchased are from independent businesses. And I think what's happening is Canadians in particular are voting with their wallets right now to buy from independent brands as opposed to department stores. And I think that's a wonderful thing for us to be seeing for entrepreneurship and retail in general.
Well, it does raise an interesting question, though, because in recent days here on BNN Bloomberg, we heard from well-known retailer in this country, Indigo, whose CEO described Amazon, for example, as being anti-competitive. How do you feel about a comment like that?
Well, one of the things, and we think Indigo is a great story, and certainly Heather is a wonderful Canadian business leader, and so I think they're doing a really good job. But I mean, look, in the last 2 weeks, what have we seen? Nike has pulled themselves off Amazon entirely because they believe that they can create a better experience for consumers that want to buy Nike products directly from Nike.com, where the pricing is better, the experience is better, but more importantly, this allows them to have a direct relation with the end consumer. When you go and you search for Nike products on Amazon, you're not going to see Nike products anymore. You're now going to see other people's products. A better example for me, though, is actually Allbirds, which is a great Shopify story. The guy started on Shopify back in 2015, and Allbirds has become a category leader across physical retail and online retailer, all on Shopify. When you go and search for Allbirds and other marketplaces, you actually are given results which are fake Allbirds. And so it's interesting to see what is happening now, where people don't want sponsored search results. They want to buy the products they are looking for, and they want to buy directly from the people making those products. And I think this trend, people have been talking about direct to consumer as a bit of a fad or a momentary trend. That is not the case. Direct to consumer as a business model for retail will be steady state in the long run. And most of people's direct to consumer favorite brands on their wish list are all powered by Shopify, which is exciting for us.
So let's just dig a little deeper into that, because you work with small businesses, you work with large businesses. This idea of direct to consumer, I think, on the simplest level, I think of, hey, someone's an influencer and they can start up an online business by using your platform. But can you just give us a sense on how much of direct-to-consumer is that? And can big business, big traditional retailers using your platform be considered direct-to-consumer? Can you give us some examples of that?
Yeah, so actually one of the great Canadian large-scale retailers is Staples Canada, and Staples.ca is powered by Shopify. One of the things we are seeing is that a lot of the big retailers, a lot of the big brands that have historically either built their own e-commerce or retail technology, or they use one of these big enterprise installations, they're also now coming to Shopify as well. And I think what's happening is they themselves want to act more entrepreneurial. When they hear about Instagram Commerce or Apple Pay or Shopify Pay, they want to use it that very day. They don't want to have to wait 6 months to have a service call. And so it's interesting to see, particularly with our Shopify Plus business, that a lot of these traditional retailers are also beginning to use Shopify Plus to sell to the end consumer as well. But unequivocally, there is a place for these big retailers and big brands to play. I just think that they have to realize that consumers' expectations is every time they purchase something, they either want it to be really convenient or they want to have a very deep, rich experience. If it's going to be a commoditized product and a commoditized experience, consumers are not going to be happy. They're not going to return to that shop ever again.
You know, it's interesting. We're diving deep into this subject of retail in 2019. Just before you came on, we were talking about Hudson's Bay and the conversations around the battle for control, but it really has a lot more to do with shareholders than it does with the actual business of the Bay going forward. I mean, if you were at HBC right now, like, what would be your suggestion on how you ensure that that retail business has an optimistic future?
Well, with a brand or a large-scale retailer like HBC, for example, I would try to figure out, why are people walking into our stores? What are we giving people that justifies our profit margin? And I think for a lot of these big retailers, for decades, their entire profit margin was based on the fact they had distribution. They had physical locations in different cities. That is no longer enough. Distribution has been democratized online and even offline as well. And so if I'm going into a big retailer and I ask about a product, and the salesperson there kind of gives me a blank stare and says, I don't really know much about the product, I'm just a salesperson, that is not a great experience. Conversely, take a great Canadian retailer like Harry Rosen, and something that I talk to Larry Rosen, Ian Rosen about often is that despite them being so traditional, when I walk into a Harry Rosen, the experience is fantastic. Even though they're selling me a product that I can buy elsewhere, they're adding additional value, whether it's making sure they have my sizes already in the system, so they're presenting me only products that fit me, or it's they know other products I purchase and how they kind of fit together. But a brand like Harry Rosen, despite being iconic, traditional, and been around for a very long time, they're truthfully and really are justifying their profit margin every time I walk into the store. And so I think there is absolutely great hope for these big retailers. They just need to be more entrepreneurial.
All right. Now, speaking of spending, not just consumers who are spending during this holiday period, real quickly before we go, I want to talk about your own spending. You know, it's interesting. We've talked already today about how Amazon built its moat around its business by continuous spending. You guys are spending. You're building these fulfillment centers. It hasn't scared off investors. If anything, investors have been very excited about the Shopify story this year. Can you just give us an update on your own spending plans and how that is going with the rollout of sort of more and more basically ways to help out your merchants around North America?
Yeah, John, well, I think if you zoom out, what you're beginning to see is what really Shopify is becoming, which is a retail operating system. In fact, the world's first retail operating system, whereby if you are a brand or a merchant, small business, more recently even a large business, we want to help you with every aspect of your retail challenges. We started with online, we then moved to offline, we then incorporated payments with Shopify Payments, Shopify Shipping, Shopify Capital, and more recently, as you alluded to, with the Shopify Fulfillment Network. And really what we're trying to do is, if we think if we aggregate all of our stores, we actually are the third largest online retailer in America. What that means is we can go to all these suppliers, whether they're shipping companies or payment companies or banks, and we can negotiate on behalf of 1 million merchants. Instead of keeping those economies of scale for ourselves the way that a traditional third largest retailer would do, we can give those economies of scale to small businesses to help level the playing field. Now, on that final piece, that Shopify Fulfillment Network, which we just announced in June at Shopify Unite, our model is a bit different than what they're doing at Amazon. First of all, we don't plan on owning our own warehouses. We actually will leverage third-party fulfillment warehouses all over the States and then eventually around the world by building great warehouse management software, installing that WMS software inside of these warehouses. And so if you're a merchant on Shopify and we have a sufficient amount of sales data from you, we can now tell you where to ship your products, and we can ship those products to your end consumer on your behalf. And instead of having the box say Amazon, it'll say your particular brand. And we think it's just one more way that we can help entrepreneurs compete with the largest retailers. And more recently, we're watching some of these small businesses win and become category leaders. We want more of that.
All right, Harley, we'll let you get back to reading those stats on your phone on how many hoodies have been sold since we started the conversation. Harley Finkelstein, Chief Operating Officer of Shopify, joining us on this Cyber Monday from Ottawa.